Cousins for deep try, looking for Pryor, and it is caught.
Allen Hurns, Allen stays inbound, along the right sideline, inside the 30, inside the 20.
From being forgotten by the entire league to torching every single defense in the NFL, these players had the most outrageous single-season performances of all time. They're the biggest one-year wonder wide receivers of all time. For a brief time, it looked like the Minnesota Vikings had another unbelievable Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver in 2009 thanks to brand new starter Sidney Rice. He was picked in the second round of the 2007 NFL Draft, but saw limited playing time in his first couple seasons. So no one expected Rice to turn into one of the best wide receivers in the league in 2009. He developed some exceptional chemistry with new Vikings QB Brett Favre that saw his stats explode. It culminated in Week 10. Rice had his first ever 200-plus yard performance against the division rival Detroit Lions. He was named the NFC Offensive Player of the Week, and by the season's end, Rice was a Pro Bowler. Every single DB that Rice faced, he got the better of, and his performances propelled the Vikings to earn the number 2 seed in the NFC. He finished the season with an impressive 1,312 yards from 83 catches to go along with 8 touchdowns. Rice didn't choke in the playoffs either, catching 3 touchdown passes against the Dallas Cowboys. But this would be the peak of Sidney Rice's career. He picked up a hip injury in the NFC Championship game against the Saints, which would relegate him to only 6 games the following season. He had a small career resurgence in Seattle, including getting a Super Bowl ring despite tearing his ACL in Week 8 of the campaign.
We run the football with great commitment, take our shots down the field, and then he makes things happen. So a combination of all that.
Rice went from finishing 4th in the NFL in receiving at just 23 years old to being out of the league just a few seasons later. While it took a few years for Sidney Rice to explode, Michael Clayton had one of the best rookie wide receiver seasons the league has ever seen. Taken 15th overall by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2004, Clayton looked like an all-time steal by the Bucs and John Gruden just 12 months into his career.
It was so rich and the environment was so rich. There were so many different ways to go. It was the kind of thing.
In his rookie season, Clayton led all rookies with 80 receptions and a whopping 1,193 yards. Clayton even led the team in touchdowns despite the fact that the Bucs had plenty more experienced options. He did not look like a rookie at all during that first season as Clayton became a leader on offense and surely a building block for the future. What the Bucs didn't realize at the time was that Clayton's best days were already behind him by this point, with his career falling off a cliff. In the off-season before 2005, Clayton was forced into knee surgery and it seemed to have a massive effect on his confidence. He was a shell of his rookie self with just 372 yards to show and amazingly 0 touchdowns. In fact, after his rookie season, Clayton would haul in just 3 more scores before his career came to an end in 2011. He did get a championship ring thanks to being part of the New York Giants roster in 2011, but it was still a disappointing career for a receiver who came out of the gate flying. Injuries often play a big part in why a lot of these receivers have disappointing careers, but that was not really the case for Marquise Goodwin. The Texas receiver competed at the 2012 Summer Olympics in the long jump, showing off his unbelievable athleticism. You would think that would have made him an immediate star, but Goodwin struggled with the Buffalo Bills, who drafted the speedster. It was after signing a 2-year deal with the San Francisco 49ers that Goodwin suddenly used his speed to become the most deadly deep threat in the entire NFL. Game after game in 2017, Goodwin was flying past defenders and finding the end zone. He finished the season with 962 yards with an insane 17.2 yards per reception. He quickly became one of the best deep threats the league had ever seen, and San Francisco rewarded Goodwin with a brand new $20 million contract. Despite the fact that he managed to keep the same yards per catch, Goodwin saw his production fall off a cliff in the following seasons, not even able to cross the 400-yard mark in any single season for the rest of his career. The speedster was just never able to build on a stellar breakout season, and considering he is now a free agent and 33 years old, Goodwin has to be considered a one-season wonder. Maybe it is harsh to call Josh Gordon a one-season wonder because he did have an excellent rookie season with the Browns before exploding for an insane sophomore year. If you ask anyone about Josh Gordon, they will likely talk about his unbelievable 2013 season with the Browns. After being suspended for the first 2 games of the season due to violating the NFL's substance abuse policy, Gordon returned with a brilliant 146-yard performance against the Vikings. He was completely unstoppable every time he stepped onto the field. In weeks 12 and 13, Josh Gordon became the first player in NFL history to have back-to-back 200-plus yard receiving games. Not a single defender in all of the NFL could stop Josh Gordon. Even when defenses sent double and triple teams, he still found a way to come up with the ball. After being voted to the Pro Bowl and earning first-team All-Pro honors, the sky was the limit for the 22-year-old. He led the league with an insane 1,646 yards receiving, as well as 9 touchdowns while only playing 14 games. Gordon even scored the longest receiving touchdown in the league that year. But those substance abuse problems just kept on cropping up for Gordon. The following season, Gordon was suspended for 10 games and struggled when he was reinstated. Gordon would eventually fail multiple more drug tests and be suspended for 2 full seasons before a slightly disappointing return to the league. He did have a slight resurgence in 2018 and became a Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots. Josh Gordon went from one of the best players in the NFL to being best remembered for years and years of suspensions. Josh Gordon is surprisingly not the only one-year wonder who saw their career derailed by substance abuse problems. After a college career where he was named Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year and Most Outstanding Receiver in college football, expectations were high for Justin Blackmon after being taken 5th overall by the Jaguars. The talent on the field was obvious from Game 1. In his rookie season, Blackmon torched the Houston Texans defense for 236 yards off of just 7 catches. That was the 3rd most for an NFL rookie in a single game. He was the perfect, well-rounded wide receiver who did not flounder when the competition stepped up. So the Jags rookie had all the tools to be a superstar, but the issues off the field were also obvious to see straight away. Not long after being drafted, he was arrested for DUI and released later the same day. Blackmon's sophomore season saw him suspended for the first 4 games due to violating the NFL's substance abuse policy. While he was brilliant in his return, Blackmon was again suspended on November 1st and missed the rest of the season. But this time he was suspended indefinitely, and to the shock of many fans, Blackmon would never return to the NFL.
6'3". So I just think they're very similar, but Blackmon's more athletic and brings more explosiveness to the table.
Despite going to rehab multiple times, his substance abuse problems were too much for the youngster. After a stellar first campaign where he led all rookies in yards and receptions, Blackmon would never play another game in the league after his 2nd season. A wasted talent and certainly a disappointing one-season wonder. While Justin Blackmon was never able to get hold of his substance abuse problems, it was a major injury that meant Patrick Jeffers becoming one of the biggest one-season wonders the NFL has ever seen. Taken 159th overall in the 1996 NFL Draft, expectations were not massively high for the former Virginia wide receiver. After short spells with the Broncos and the Cowboys, Jeffers signed with the Carolina Panthers. He started just 10 games for Carolina that season, but had a breakout season, registering 63 catches for 1,082 yards to go along with 12 touchdowns. That season, Jeffers and Mohsen Muhammad both had breakout years. The pair of them could not be stopped. Jeffers would finish tied for 2nd in touchdowns in the league, showing off his ability as a red zone specialist. After this record-breaking season, Jeffers' career was cut short thanks to a gruesome ACL tear in a preseason game. Having missed the entire 2000 season, Jeffers was never the same after the injury. He would play just 9 more games for the Panthers before being released. So after what looked like a breakout year, Jeffers would have just 14 more catches in his entire career before never playing in the NFL again. While Jeffers is one of the more heartbreaking examples of a one-year wonder, Allen Hurns was at least able to profit off of his success.
For a guy to play hurt and to have an impact and still produce.
The Miami wide receiver had a very stop-start college career that contributed to him going undrafted in the 2004 NFL Draft. In the offseason, he signed a contract with the Jaguars that would see him earn around $500,000 each year on the 3-year deal. In just the first quarter of Hurns' very first game in the league, that contract looked like a massive steal. He became the first rookie ever to score 2 receiving touchdowns in the first quarter of his debut. His first 2 catches both went for 6, and all of a sudden, Allen Hurns was on the map. He followed up a solid rookie campaign with a brilliant sophomore season. Despite missing a game due to concussion protocol, Allen Hurns still put up more than 1,000 receiving yards along with 10 touchdowns. Jacksonville rewarded him with a bumper new contract worth $40 million across 4 years. It was all downhill from here for Hurns. He played 4 more seasons in the NFL and never had more than 3 touchdowns in a single game. After a brilliant 1,000-plus yard season, Hurns was never able to get more than 500 yards in a single season. He was certainly not worthy the money the Jags paid him. After short spells with the Cowboys and Dolphins, Hurns struggled with injuries and has not played a single down of NFL football since 2019. Former New York Jet Terrelle Pryor had one of the weirdest NFL careers of all time. At Ohio State, Pryor came to the college as one of the top prospects in the country as a quarterback. He was brilliant with the Buckeyes, winning Rose Bowl MVP in 2010 while showing off some unbelievable athleticism. He looked like a brilliant QB prospect for the NFL, but issues off the field meant that Pryor's college career came to a premature end. He was eventually taken in the 3rd round of the 2011 supplemental draft. Pryor served a 5-game ban as part of his off-the-field issues. Pryor got opportunities as a QB in the NFL, starting 10 games for the Raiders before moving to the Browns. With Cleveland, Pryor switched positions to wide receiver, something that had been on the cards for years. It looked like a brilliant move as he won the starting spot. Pryor's 2016 season saw him haul in 77 receptions for 1,007 yards and 4 touchdowns. He looked like he had found his long-term position in the NFL, and the former QB was rewarded with $8 million from the Washington Redskins. But he struggled in Washington, and then injuries began to slow down Pryor's career. He played just 8 more games in the league that season with the Redskins, with Pryor not playing a down of NFL football since 2018. The former quarterback did brilliantly to extend his playing career, but was never able to build on the promise he showed at wide receiver. But if you thought that career was strange, then wait until you hear about Brandon Lloyd's breakout season. In college, Lloyd overcame a broken femur to be voted consensus All-Big Ten in back-to-back seasons, eventually being selected in the 4th round of the 2003 NFL Draft. Having been selected by the 49ers, Lloyd had a few good seasons in San Francisco, which is why the team were able to get a 3rd and a 4th round pick for him. He struggled after getting traded to Washington, including some heavily publicized disagreements with head coach Joe Gibbs due to poor work ethic. Lloyd was released by the then Redskins and had a pretty terrible season with Chicago before being signed by the Denver Broncos. Denver ended up being the perfect home for Lloyd as he suddenly turned into one of the best wide receivers in the league. Lloyd became the favorite target for short-lived Bronco starter Kyle Orton. He finished the season with an insane 1,448 yards, which led the league for receiving yards. That earned Lloyd Pro Bowl honors, and he was named 2nd-team All-Pro alongside superstars like Calvin Johnson. Lloyd also had a career-high 77 receptions and 11 touchdowns, but he was not able to build on that season, in part due to Tim Tebow taking over the starting QB job. After a poor start to the following season, Lloyd was traded to the St. Louis Rams. After short stints with the Patriots and a return to the 49ers, Lloyd retired from professional football in 2015. How do you go from being one of the best players in the NFL to being completely out of the league in just a few years' time? Well, at least these guys got their 10 minutes of fame before it all came crashing down.